What's up with Bitcoin? The Santa rally fails to materialize and BTC remains stuck in the 90s. Where might we be headed next? Altcoin ETFs ahead. With regime change coming to the SEC, which alts could be next to get a coveted spot ETF approved? Solana suffering. After an incredible 2024, has the sixth largest crypto run out of steam? Shut the FUD up. New regulatory requirements in Europe require USDT to be delisted from exchanges there. Here's why you shouldn't be worried. And a look at last week's top performers, tweets of the week, coins to watch, and much more besides. This is the Coin Bureau News, live.
And we are live, GM one and all, and welcome to another episode of the Coin Bureau Weekly News Live, and indeed the final news live of 2024. My name, of course, is Nick. Guy, how you doing?
I'm all right.
Good,
Nice to have you back at Coin Bureau HQ.
Good to be here. Did you guys miss me?
We certainly did.
Mm-hmm.
We certainly did. Did you have a nice Christmas?
Yeah, it was nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Family and everything down south. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely. Well, here we are back, as Nick says, the final live newscast of 2025. We are almost there, folks. 2024, I should say. Yeah. I'm getting ahead of myself. We're almost there. We got a mini Santa rally.
Mini Santa rally. Mini Santa rally. Yes. Yeah. Not the full delivery, unfortunately. He lost some of the gifts on his way.
Yeah. Obviously, some of you weren't good this year.
Yeah.
And so Santa didn't come as expected. This is entirely on you.
Yeah.
Okay, so of course we will start off with a bit of Bitcoin price analysis. What is BTC up to and what could lie ahead? Nick, do you want to start us off with this?
Indeed, I will. Now, first of all, to double check again, has Michael Saylor watching the stream? Because we know
yes.
In the past 5 streams in a row, he has marked the start of the stream with his Bitcoin buys. So last week, he bought it about the first time above 100K at 106K. And I have reason to believe, of course, apart from the fact that he's watching the Coin Bureau Weekly News live,
of course,
but that he would buy again because he pushed this tweet earlier or likely this evening, which was basically disconcerting. Just go back to that. It was disconcerting blue lines on sailortracker.com. Now, obviously, those blue lines is the price of Bitcoin slightly below 100K, which therefore implies he's probably thinking, hey, this could be a good buy now at lower than my previous buy level. So that could be incoming any moment now. We shall see. Let us know, guys, in the comments if it happens whilst the stream is live.
Yes, keep us posted. We're relying on you.
We're relying on you.
Yeah.
But of course, last week was a very volatile week. So straight out of the news, like on the Tuesday, or as we predicted, like the prices did start falling and they hit a low of 93K, which is the weekly low. However, this mini Santa rally, as we alluded to, did come. It started on the Christmas Eve and took us all the way on Christmas Day up to a high of about 99,000, almost breaking through that
so close
level. Just so close yet so far. Yeah, unfortunately. Now, what is happening? Well, I think that there's just a general de-risking, of course, in end-of-year markets. You know, portfolio managers, usually they've got their portfolio targets met in terms of returns. It's a generally illiquid market, especially this time between Christmas and New Year's. You don't want to take any risks by taking a position in Bitcoin or any sort of assets at this moment when you've met your targets, and especially when there's no particular momentum right now. As a result, there haven't been taken positions, and that's why I don't think there's general momentum been flowing. But we also did see, and further to that, we did see BlackRock's IBIT have its largest day of outflows on just before Christmas Day.
Okay.
So that's 188 million out of BlackRock's IBIT ETF.
Right.
So obviously, that could have impacted on prices on that day, what led to the fall. Right?
I think so, yeah. I think so. A few people de-risking before the big day.
And realizing some of their gains. Remember, some of these people bought these ETFs when they first launched. They want to realize some gains before Christmas. Maybe they want to go and buy some late last-minute Christmas presents, you know. So
yeah. Well, can we go back to that previous chart that we were looking at where we had the Santa rally? Is that Santa rally basically, is that everyone who had failed or forgot to buy Christmas presents for people suddenly just gone, oh God, I'll get them some Bitcoin. I'll get them some Bitcoin.
It's a good theory and hypothesis, Guy. Although would that explain why it tanked afterwards? My theory is potentially you give them Bitcoin and they're the kind of normies who don't give a shit about Bitcoin. They're like, what is this coin? I'm going to, and they were selling it progressively. It's like after Christmas, they got the gifts.
There you are. Look, that's the panic emergency Christmas Eve buys, and then the Christmas Day, like, oh, Bitcoin, please sell.
Oh, it's sell. So yeah, I mean, that's exactly what. Did we just buy? Did MicroStrategy just acquire? We did. Okay, there we go.
Well done, Michael.
Well done.
On cue as always.
On cue as always. There we go. Acquired 2,138 Bitcoin for $209 million at 97,837 per Bitcoin. See, this is what you would not be able to do if it's not a live stream, you know?
Yeah.
There we go. So he's done it. Michael's done it. Yeah, I mean, there's also a broader discussion now, I think, and as part of the bearish, tone is the likelihood of this Bitcoin strategic reserve actually coming to pass.
Yeah.
Now, this is the chances on Polymarket over there at 29%. This is in the first 100 days, to point out, and it's an important disclaimer. But I still think that's a little bit high.
You think that's a bit generous?
I think it's a bit generous, yeah.
Okay.
I think that, because I think that, first of all, the chance, it's a lot of hoops to go through, right? Yeah. This is the strategic reserve where they go out and buy the Cynthia Lummis one, where they go out and accumulate up to 1 million Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
I think that's still a bit high because 100 days, there's so much else going on, and there are, like I say, many hurdles to jump through.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think this is going to be this would be a priority for Trump in those first days, weeks, months. Yeah. As you say, there's other stuff to do. And it's not an easy thing to do. He would have to get congressional approval for that. The Republicans, they have a majority in Congress, but it's fairly slim. And I think, as Nick Carter and others have pointed out, like, there's no guarantee that all Republicans would necessarily vote the same way on this. I think it's a fairly contentious issue, a Bitcoin strategic reserve. And Trump I think, has an out, because he can just choose to do basically what he kind of alluded to in the first place, which was just not to sell the BTC that the US government already holds, which is a fairly sizable stack.
That's kind of like what he alluded to exactly in the speech, right? So it's still relatively price positive, but it's not as positive as many people were expecting to have this massive buys going into strategic reserve. And it's not just us, that's not just the Polymarket odds, but there's also people, including Nick Carter, who's published something in the Bitcoin magazine about why not only doesn't he think it's not going to happen, but also why it's a bad idea. And we can leave a quote there, which you guys can read. And then also Galaxy Digital, Alex Thorne, the head of firm-wide research at Galaxy Digital, they released a long list of predictions. And one of them is that Bitcoin, we got the tweet here, Bitcoin will not be bought by the US government in 2025.
Yeah.
And although they will still hold the Bitcoin on hand. So there's this general kind of feeling that, look, maybe we got a bit ahead of ourselves. And we were discussing earlier as well, the chances are, I think, there's more. Are there any surprise bullish catalysts? It's more likely that there's a bearish developments, in the sense that some of these bullish catalysts that were priced in may not materialize, and if maybe not as quickly as people had assumed. Yeah.
I think maybe the idea of a strategic reserve has kind of got people huffing on the hopium a little too much. And, there's a sense, I think maybe part of the reason why we're seeing this downturn at the moment is that starting to realize that we're maybe running on fumes a little bit. And what we need to see is something concrete from Trump. It doesn't necessarily have to be the announcement of a strategic reserve. And I think we're both in agreement with Nick Carter and Alex Thorne on this one, that's probably not going to happen. But I think we need to see some positive action, some positive words, at least from Trump, once he's inaugurated towards the end of January. And I think I get the feeling that's kind of what the market is waiting for at the moment. The sort of hopium on the strategic reserve is that canister's starting to run out.
Exactly, yeah. There was some other good news last week, good and bad news, I think. Good news internationally, not just all about the US. I know we're always talking about the US here. But the Russian finance minister confirmed that Bitcoin and crypto can be used for foreign trade. So this is slightly bullish. It shows that obviously countries are considering it, and which is one of the predictions actually from our video yesterday, is that more countries will use it for trade. But on the bad news front, unfortunately, despite his name, Satoshi did not manage to get the Japanese politician named Satoshi, guys. If you go back and watch the previous news live stream, his name is Satoshi. Yeah. He proposed this for the Japanese parliament, and that has unfortunately failed.
Yeah. It's a shame but just the fact that this is being talked about, and again, I think maybe this is what we need to look at the positives, rather than the kind of negatives of, oh no, this isn't going to happen. The positive side of it is that this is being talked about. This is being talked about seriously. This isn't like, this isn't some Bitcoiner who's
part
just
of the discussion. Yeah,
exactly. Who's just kind of getting way too overexcited.
The Overton window has been moved, right?
Exactly.
It takes some time. Now, when it comes to where are we going, now I will again refer you, of course, to our pro traders at the Coin Bureau Trading channel, which is right over here. You guys can scan that QR code. Yesterday, Mariano released a video, which is really interesting. And it's basically, I'm buying. And now, obviously, the premise is obviously things are looking bearish on the charts. A lot of people are bearish, especially in the influencer side. And then also many of the charts are bearish, but he's going to place it with contrarian swing trade. And I will, of course, encourage you guys to watch the video so you can see for yourself. But one of the charts, for instance, I asked him to share with me for one is this bearish head and shoulders pattern, right? So it could potentially, according to this, obviously we should be seeing a breakdown to lower levels, the central pivot ranges. But Mariano has placed, he thinks of two potential alternative scenarios where he's placed his swing trade there at about the 93K level. He's thought about ideas there. And those are the potential scenarios he sees Bitcoin going. But of course, there are more bearish charts out there, of course, including a weak monthly candle close. The monthly candle closed very weakly. We had a breakdown on the RSI as well, which is a separate chart here as well. And then, of course, ongoing distribution patterns are also quite bearish. And then, of course, we've got liquidity levels from this trading different software, which basically shows the liquidation levels where a lot of liquidity is placed. According to different time frames, and around the 88 to 87K level, we've got quite a bit of liquidity, potentially either stop losses for the longs or potential buys for those who want to get long. So we could be looking to bounce off that. We could be looking to bounce off that. We could be looking to market makers. That generally the view is that the thesis is that these liquidation levels act as kind of magnets for the price. So we could potentially see Bitcoin go in there in the short term. But Mariano, as I said, he's like potentially placed and he's also said it's important if you don't have alpha, if the consensus is the market going one way and you take the view of the market, right? Generally in trading, as an investor in the contrarian trades can do quite well. He does have one interesting chart, which is the CME gap. Now, for traders out there, obviously the CME gap is the difference between the CME close when it opens and closes off at a price that may be different because Bitcoin is trading 24/7, whereas the CME only over business hours. And there was a gap before Christmas at about 99K, and about 60% of the time the thesis is traders say the gap is closed. So there's potential, yes, but that's 60% of that's only 60% of the time. It doesn't always get closed. So, but that's part of the analysis that fed into his thesis. But again, I will refer you guys, of course, to subscribe to the Coin Bureau Trading and watch that video to get the full analysis itself. We hope that maybe we can get to 50K on the channel, the Coin Bureau Trading channel, before the end of the year.
Absolutely.
That'll be a major milestone. So
if we get to 50K subscribers by the end of the year, Nick has promised to wear trousers for every subsequment live stream of 2025. I know what I heard, Nick. I know what I heard. I know what I heard. Everyone else in the room here.
That's not true, guys. If that is the case, I'm going to delete that trading channel. I cannot subject myself to that. That's a step too much, man. Step too much.
Okay. Well, test it out anyway. Coin Bureau Trading, lots of great alpha there. Okay, so it looks like then Bitcoin, unless the whales step in, unless Saylor really decides to pump the market big time, it looks like BTC is going to finish the year on a little bit of a flat note, but
flat or bearish,
a little bit of a bearish note. But I think that would kind of do a lot of disservice to the sort of astonishing 12 months that Bitcoin and most of the rest of the crypto market has seen.
Tell anybody about 4 months ago that Bitcoin would be at 93K and would be debating the nuances of, oh no, you're 93K, that's like, we're looking a bit bearish now. Come on, guys.
I bet
take the wins.
If you told that to anyone in crypto, it'd be, by the end of the year we'd be at 93K. I bet you anyone who'd been in crypto for a while would have gone, yes, and everyone's moaning about the fact that we're not at 100K and the world.
In tradition, man. In tradition, as always.
So although we're down a little bit, next year is looking very, very interesting indeed. indeed. And of course, one of the big bullish catalysts that could come next year is obviously because of regime change that is going to happen at the SEC. Gary Gensler out, Paul Atkins in. The possibility of further spot crypto ETFs is becoming more and more likely. So obviously 2024 was the year of the spot Bitcoin ETFs. That's what began this whole run up. Then we had the spot Ethereum ETFs approved. It's a little bit out of the blue. Speculation then turned to what was coming next. What would be the next crypto to get a spot ETF in the United States? And there are a lot of names in the frame. At first, it was just Sol, really, wasn't it? Everyone was talking about, oh, Solana will be next. But it looks like we could have a whole load of altcoin ETFs coming down the pipe. Some kind of predictable names in there. Some slightly less predictable. Now, you've just done a video on this, Nick, which we're going to release soon. So I want you to give us the lowdown. What ETFs? Give us some hopium.
ETFs, hopium alpha. Okay, well, for one, I mean, this is probably not a very groundbreaking one. It's a combined Bitcoin and Ethereum ETF, which is not amazing, but it was approved. Now, one recently, two by Franklin Templeton and Hashdex. It was expected. Now, there's one more approval waiting. That could be the first approval in 2025. Now, as the name would suggest, it's a combined ETF with Bitcoin and Ethereum, which I kind of think is a really silly product. I mean, to be honest, if I'm an investor, I would buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ethereum ETF. And if I wanted exposure to both, I would do it then in a way that I could choose the amount I want in my portfolio, right? Size it accordingly. Yeah. Whereas, I assume it's probably like equal exposure. I wouldn't personally use, but they've applied for it. It's got approved, and it was a pretty simple approval because there's already exists Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. So,
yeah, I'm not sure, but I don't necessarily see the case for this. Why? What the demand would be for this?
I don't think. I mean, I guess it's probably just an additional product on the shelves for these investors. But another one which is really interesting, and one, in fact, that I think many of the analysts, including the Bloomberg ETF analysts, Eric Balkunas and James Seyfert, who think is the most likely next one, is Litecoin. Now, I bet you don't have that on your.
Hang on, wait a minute. I remember Litecoin. Yeah, I remember Litecoin.
Yes, remember back in those 2018. The silver. Bitcoin's Charlie Lee, Satoshi Light, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Back in the days, man, that OG coin. But they potentially think this could be the next ETF, Litecoin ETF, and that's for two very good reasons. I think one, because of its longevity. It's been around for a very long time. So that's proof of, they can track the data, check out market conditions, all that kind of stuff. But also because it's a fork of Bitcoin. Yeah. Right? And of course, there's the questions around decentralization, that kind of stuff. So I think that Litecoin is the next potential ETF. And then one that's even more of a surprise than Litecoin, and that the ETF analysts themselves have pointed to as potentially being an early approval, is one more thing. Of course, Litecoin it's been termed a commodity by the CFTC.
That's right.
The third point as well. Now, coming back to my point, the third one, which may not be on everyone's radar, is Hedera's HBAR.
Okay. Right.
So, positioned for a 2025 ETF due to its ongoing growing adoption and unique network architecture. So, it's really interesting. That's I don't know.
HBAR as well, I think, has managed to avoid the security designation. Exactly. I don't think anyone, not even the fanatics at Gary Gensler's SEC, have tried to label HBAR as security. Yeah,
so it's kind of like missed the fire, it's been managed to dodge all those landmines.
Yeah,
and get off the radar and not be on the radar of the SEC. Maybe that's because of all of the partnerships they've got with all those large, enterprises and
gosh, it's funny though, isn't it? Because one of the reasons why Sol, I think, was being talked about for an ETF earlier in the year was because it was commanding so much mind share. And things like Litecoin, Hedera, XRP, which I think we're going to talk about in a moment, these weren't really getting much attention. And then suddenly in the last few weeks, we've had this kind of, if you like, dino coin rally. And suddenly people are talking about some of these cryptos that had dropped off the radar of a lot of us, who've been in the space for a while.
Yeah, 100%. And speaking of XRP, XRP and Solana are both expected. XRP is expected later in 2025.
Okay.
And this, they say, potentially is due to regulatory complexities. Of course, it is still, despite the fact that Gary Gensler is moving on to better, greener pastures, I think that still there's the lawsuit is still there.
Yeah.
So, that's going to be a potential drag unless it's, just revoked or dropped. But then, of course, Sol. Now, it hasn't. Although there was a lawsuit that accused that they tried to label Sol as a security, that has been dropped. However, it doesn't have the clarity that Litecoin, Bitcoin, etc., have had in terms of being a commodity or not a security. But there are a lot of applications. I think there's at least 3 or 4 for XRP, and as well as Solana, you've got like Bitwise, 21 shares. I think Wisdom Tree, quite a few of the top providers have applied for Sol.
Yeah, and been rejected, I think, in a few cases.
2 have rejected. Two Sol have been rejected. So they said, which is, Gary Gensler's probably his parting gift. What he wants, his final send off. But there is actually what's interesting here, and it feeds into that, is that yesterday I saw the news that Volatility Shares filed for a Solana futures ETF.
Right.
Now, this is interesting because I mean, this is sort of what is the accepted kind of first step, isn't it? Exactly, but also because there are no Sol CME listed futures products, right?
Yeah.
So basically, that means that because there are no Sol the futures ETFs obviously buy futures instead of spot. There are no Sol futures ETFs. I mean, Sol futures on the CME, which means that Volatility Shares at least thinks that we could be seeing Solana listed futures on the CME. And that's important because CME listed futures are one of the requirements, at least from a market intelligence perspective, for the SEC to be comfortable with spot ETFs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, it looks like this is going to be before we sort of round this off, I should say that there's another category of coins being talked to. Now, this was not on my bingo card either. We could actually see some Dogecoin ETFs next year, right? These are being talked about.
They've been talked about, yeah.
So Nate Geraci, who's the president of the ETF store, was expressing surprise that no ETF issuer has filed for a Dogecoin ETF.
Yeah, I mean, there's such supposedly a minimal downside risk. I mean, the fact that it is quite decentralized, I've seen quite a little speculation that Doge could be an ETF candidate. What I was not seeing as an ETF candidate, though, is last week there was the CFTC classification that Dogecoins, including Floki, is a quote utility token, which therefore drove it into arbitrage and all that. And I don't know why this head of global markets advisory committee decided to label Floki as the chosen utility Dogecoin of choice, but that obviously drove Floki into overdrive. And as a result, Floki DAO last week actually voted on a proposal to provide liquidity for a European Floki ETP.
Wow. Okay.
So we could get a Floki ETP/ETF.
This is one of the things I love about crypto, is that you try to second guess it. You try to think, okay, what's a contrarian play here? Like everyone's talking about an XRP ETF or a Sol ETF. What's a contrarian play on that? I tell you what, a Dogecoin ETF. That's an old school crypto. It's proof of work. Maybe it's not a security. Maybe that could be the next ETF. And then crypto goes, no, that's not contrarian enough.
That's not contrarian. Floki.
I'm going to talk about a Floki Inu ETF. This remember the meme coin that is named after Elon Musk's dog,
and is also apparently of Viking lore.
Okay,
a Floki is a Viking apparently.
So the dog is named after a Viking.
I don't know.
And the meme coin is named after the dog.
Yeah,
and it could be getting an ETF.
Exactly. Welcome to crypto.
What a world.
But we have quickly, before we jump onto the next topic, I think obviously everyone wants to know, and any price predictions. Obviously, generally ETFs do have a positive impact on the price. We saw it with Bitcoin. Of course, we didn't see it with another cryptocurrency, which shall remain nameless. They got spot ETFs this year.
It's had a tough enough year already.
But so some of these predictions, Sol predictions, they range from about $300 to $450, with others predicting up to $1,000. So which
I could see that.
I could totally see that.
Yeah.
XRP $2.80 to $3.15 in the near term, with longer term price predictions of $10. So
wow,
all
those people calling for a $10 XRP on YouTube and elsewhere, they could be right. They could be proven right.
I wouldn't doubt the XRP army. One thing I would slightly doubt, I mean, LTC, they've got a range here in the near term of $1,130 to $160, with some predictions of people who potentially on crack to $1,000 to $1,000.
Yeah.
But the guys also, these are not our predictions. These are the consensus market predictions. So,
Okay.
And finally, HBAR potentially between 70 cents to 80 cents in the long term. So on the slightly more conservative front there.
Yeah. It was odd that kind of with the speculation around the HBAR ETF, it didn't seem to really, HBAR itself didn't really seem to move much. I mean, maybe it's just seen.
I think it's seen a lot of gains already, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pump sort of ran out of steam. Okay, let's bring up before we move on to the next subject. Let's bring up this week's wall of shame. So this is the list of countries with the fewest. Oh my
Jesus,
that's something that can't be unseen. The list of territories, I should say, with the fewest viewers of last week's live
Is this
stream.
a Life of Brian? Sorry.
It does look quite Life of Brian, doesn't it? Okay, so the Isle of Man.
That's interesting.
They're too busy counting their tax-free gains over on the Isle of Man. Plus, it's not a particularly big place, so maybe that explains it. The Bahamas.
Another Caribbean country. Last week, 2 weeks ago, was Bermuda, right? No, not Bermuda. It was Barbados.
Yeah. Caribbean's been underperforming. We're watching you. We're watching you, even if you're not watching us. Panama, maybe they're just too busy worrying about the canal.
Oh, that is true. Worrying about the canal or counting tax-free gains, because obviously that's what they share with the Isle of Man. Yeah.
I'm seeing a pattern emerging here. And last but not least, Montenegro, which has a banger of a flag.
It does. That is a cool flag.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. All right, Montenegro, we'll let you off for having a cool flag, but don't let it happen again. So that was this week's wall of shame. Now let's move on. So we were talking earlier about the possibilities of Solana ETF, and I think this is the ideal time to talk a bit more about Solana in general, because it has had, like Bitcoin and many other cryptos, a stellar 2024, but also seems to be ending on a bit of a flat note. So we thought we'd kind of dig into this a little bit, see what's going on with Sol. Why has the price remained flat? Why has it been outperformed by a lot of other cryptos? And is this a case of, the rally running out of steam, or are there more deep-rooted problems?
Let's do some soul searching.
Oh. You come for the analysis. You stay
for the dad jokes.
For the god awful puns. Yes, Nick. Let's do some soul searching.
Okay, cool. So basically, over the past month, I think, or past 2 months since Trump was elected, I think it was important. Like, Sol has been underperforming some of the other coins in the category. So, for example, ETH Sol performance, we've got that here. ETH has been outperforming Sol, so much to much relief. The relief of the ETH maxis. Obviously, Sol has also been underperforming Sui. So you can see the Sui Sol there. You see Sui's been obviously L1 with the move narrative, and even more recently, like projects that are focused on this. This is hype versus Sol, and hype has been outperforming. And so that's price performance. Obviously, last 7 days, we've also seen a drop off in activity on volumes for Solana compared to a lot of the other layer ones and smart contract cryptocurrencies. And funding rates on the perps markets have also been relatively low compared to where they were just in early December. Obviously, this is the cost of longs, take open long positions. It's less demand for that compared to the shorts. So there is this general sense of stuck in a range. There's also been some news headlines that have been a bit bearish, like they've talked about market cap slips has been bearish December. And there's also caused this overhang of the unlocks, right?
Yeah. I think that's, just going back to that previous one, the market cap slips. I mean, I think it strikes me as a little bit unfair, that story, because it's sort of singling out Solana. It's like, the whole market dipped after the FOMC. It's sort of like, everyone took a dip.
Yeah.
I mean, they've still got a point in that Solana's a bit tough one. Sorry, guys. So if we skip back to those unlocks, I mean, it's been a while since we were last able to FUD Solana with an unlock narrative, wasn't it?
And it is one that, but I think that to be honest, it's not a big unlock. It's 2.3% of the outstanding supply, not massive. And also it's this question of the term bullish unlocks, right? From the concept of The Sol FTX, the locked Sol FTX allocations was some of the most widely traded OTC, which therefore means that the people who were most likely buying it were long-term bullish Sol funds, hedge funds, investors. If that, for instance, was still held at FTX and they couldn't have sold it, the moment that stuff unlocks, they would have dumped it because the FTX wants to sell, right, to be able to pay back the debtors. But basically, in this case, or the creditors, in this case, basically, it's been sold to people who potentially want to be long Sol. So it's this concept that it's been given over to investors who are not looking to dump the tokens when it's unlocked. They're looking to as a long-term play. So I would take the counter argument there and say, actually, it's going to have no impact. And it's always this case where the narrative of, oh, there's an unlock coming, causes more of the price depreciation than the actual unlocks themselves. So I think that's a bit of a FUD there. And there was speaking of there was an interesting Glassnode report from last week on Solana, and I think it's important to point out that it's when in doubt, zoom out. Like Solana has done incredibly well over the year. I mean, for instance, since November 2022, Solana has outperformed BTC and ETH on 344 of 727 of the trading days, and you can see its relative performance there.
That's pretty strong.
Yeah, it's pretty strong. Yeah. And there's just general capital inflows going into Solana as well. We can see this with the net realized profit to loss, which basically measures the profits that since coins have been moved according to the realized cap. And it shows that there's been a net capital flow since January of this year, as opposed to previous outflows. And another interesting chart is this MVRV chart. So this is the market value to realized value, which basically measures the market cap to the realized value, which is the price the last coins were moved cumulatively. And it kind of gives like a sense, kind of like a price to book in a stock, like a valuation compared to some fundamental value. And the bands are basically the standard deviations to show how far or they are from the mean, the price, right? And we're still quite far from the one standard deviation, which means that we know when overvalued from a fundamental perspective. Okay. So Solana is still not looking anywhere near too overvalued compared to these fundamental factors.
Okay. Now then, on the kind of, on the flip side of that sort of, the kind of bearish sentiment around Sol itself, you have a look at the Solana ecosystem. And I mean, the dApps there have been growing like crazy.
They have indeed. So this is a report that shows how much of the dApp revenues have grown since the beginning of the year. And that's why I say, when in doubt, zoom out, look at that, the growth, both in Solana dApp revenue and in Solana protocol revenue. There is one point, though, that a lot of these dApps from the same report are.
Whenever a dApp on Solana comes to mind, it's only one thing you can really think of.
Meme coins and surprisingly Telegram bots as well.
That surprised me, because obviously, Pump.Fun has taken up so much mind share over, it feels like the whole year, but it's only really been the last few months. But actually, Telegram bots was a big thing at the start of the year. Yeah. Exactly. And sort of like now seems to have fizzled out. But it's interesting to see that reflected so strongly in the chart. I'm also kind of surprised not to see any deep in there, because Solana is, I think, very trying to position itself as a deep in chain. Obviously, projects like Helium. Kind of real blue chips in that regard. But
I think there's just so little revenue taking place in these deep in products. To be honest, even land on that spectrum. Yeah.
So a big thing for Solana in 2025, I think, is probably going to be try to move past this whole memes thing. It's like, yes, this is a case for the chain. This has been great for Solana in many, many ways, but I think probably. They want to move beyond that.
Yeah, let's move beyond it. Let's go to actual utility projects building things. And that's why it'd be cool to see the spot DEX's revenue picking up in the next year. Let's see.
Meanwhile, TVL on Solana is still only going in one direction.
So that's good. Yeah. It's growing. And AIXBT is also a fan.
This is my new favorite Twitter account. If you've been tuning in for the last few live streams, you'll be familiar with this. It's just, I almost said it's just changed its profile pic.
Did you assume it's gender?
No comment. They just changed their profile pic. Yes, Sol just captured 53% of global L1 fee pool with $431 million revenue in 30 days, processing more transactions than all other chains combined. Yeah. So I think that's a good kind of note to end on, and end the Solana section of this on. I kind of feel like, again, this is a thing you really see a lot in crypto. Something goes up, and it goes up and up and up, and it does really well, and then it stops going up for whatever reason, and people kind of lose their minds a bit and go, "This is the end. What's happening? What's wrong?" It's like, this could be just a consolidation phase. This could just be
when in doubt, zoom out, guys.
When in doubt, zoom out. Exactly. So, yeah, there's a lot happening with Solana. I think you'd be a brave person to fade it in 2025. I think
unnecessary FUD. Speaking of which, on to our next story.
Beautiful.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah. This is it just wouldn't be a year in crypto without some Tether FUD. And as it draws to a close, that is what we've got. So I've seen a lot of people getting their knickers really in a twist about this. So this is the news. I mean, it's not even news because we've known this for quite a long time. But from today, European exchanges are required to begin delisting Tether's USDT. And this is because of the EU's MiCA regulations, which were drafted quite some time ago, are now coming into force. This has, because this date has been reached, the 30th of December, this has kicked off a wave of FUD. The Tether FUDers crawling out from under the woodwork again. We've got a couple here, a couple of tweets here to look at.
Coming out of the woodwork, exactly.
This one, Tether hasn't minted anything in over 2 weeks. Oh gosh. Okay. And then another one from Justin Bonds, bigger than FTX and Bernie Madoff.
Yeah.
How about that? Yeah. I think the first thing to point out about this is that European exchanges have known for quite some time that this delisting is coming. There's also a fair amount of runway. In fact, as far as I'm aware, they don't actually have to delist it until 2026.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of time, and I think that. I mean, and the fact that it has been preparing for it, we've known about it for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know why all of a sudden it just comes to this particular point. I think it's engagement farming.
Yeah. Coinbase recently were doing this delisting USDT. I believe OKX did so fairly recently as well. And I think really the story here, rather than oh, this is terrible for Tether, is this the end, blah blah blah, this is more a story, I think, about European regulation, Europe's talent for seemingly nothing but regulation when it comes to tech. The people who are really going to lose out here are going to be crypto users in the EU, because they're going to see liquidity not disappear but be significantly reduced. They're going to have fewer trading pairs.
The rest of Europe, the rest of the world innovates, Europe regulates. I mean, it's ridiculous, because think about it. Like, I mean, so for one, you're reducing liquidity. Less liquidity means more expensive, because you're going to have to pay at high prices. Market makers are not going to have to utilize. You have to go with either the euro pairs, you have to go with stable coins, euro stable coins. And there's been statements, for instance, one of these guys on Bloomberg, he said, I understand why it's been done to a certain extent, but it's quite exclusionary and quite limiting for EU clients themselves, because USDT is the most liquid stable coin by a country mile. And we actually also have a nice quote from within the article. So it's just I don't know if we can pull that up. Against this backdrop, the risk that Europe will become a crypto backwater.
I think that's a genuine risk.
Venture capital investment in crypto startups in Europe, for example, is poised to drop to a 4-year low in 2024. So it's just crazy, and it is true. But nonetheless, Tether itself is also not just sitting there, waiting for it to happen. They also have plans in the works. They've invested in this company, a MiCA-compliant stablecoin issuer called StabIR. And obviously, this will be second investment in a stable. It's the second investment in a stablecoin issuer this month. So they've got plans, and they're doing the things to get the regulatory requirements to be able to issue stablecoins. But one important thing to point out here is part of the MiCA requirements are that these stablecoin issuers have to keep some of their reserves within EU banks, right?
Banks, eh?
Now, I happen to recall a particular moment when a stablecoin issuer lost access to its reserves and depegged because it kept its funds at a bank.
That rings a bell. Yeah, was it? Yes. It was Circle, wasn't it?
Circle, yeah. They issue a small stablecoin called USDC.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, that happened in March last year. The SVB, all that stuff. But banks are structurally insolvent due to fractional reserve banking. So it's like, okay, if there is a bank run at the particular bank, if there's any of these banking issues, and Europe, which let's say the European banks, they're not the most healthy banks in the world, guys. I would feel a lot safer with the stable coins reserves held by, Frank Cantor Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
With the CEO, who is, by the way, a 5% shareholder in the company, and the Commerce Secretary, than a stablecoin issuer that has to keep all its reserves in a European bank, Deutsche Bank. I mean, if you look at Deutsche Bank's financials, you'll wonder, or any of those European banks. So it's just crazy fun, and it's silly.
Yeah. Look, I think, like I said earlier, this is mostly going to inconvenience crypto users in the EU. We shouldn't write off the EU as a market. I think around 30% of crypto transactions by value came from the EU, I think last year or over the course of this year. So it's not an insignificant market. And I can tell you, like the Coin Bureau events that we did in London in 2022 and 23, like the amount of people, the amount of Coin Bureau viewers from Europe was astonishing, the amount of people who came over. So I think there is a real market for crypto there. People are interested in it and people are wanting to trade it. So these people are the ones going to be inconvenienced, but it doesn't take away the fact that they are still going to have stablecoin access, because Circle has been, positioning itself very well for this. And I think it's interesting that Coinbase was the one that we referenced in that Cointelegraph referenced in that article earlier, talking about delisting USDT. Obviously, Coinbase and Circle are part of the Center Consortium. So Coinbase, you might argue, has something of an interest in USDC doing well. And it's easy to forget that Circle was instrumental in the drawing up of MiCA. When we covered MiCA for the first time a while back, they did a first draft, which was then sent off for comments and amendments and whatever. And the hand of Circle was very, very clearly all over that when that second draft came back. So Circle have been positioning themselves for a long time. Now, obviously, this is good for Circle. But it also means that EU users still do have stablecoin access. And I think that's important to remember. And as you pointed out, Tether are taking steps in order to address this. So I would imagine that Tether will come out with a MiCA-compliant stablecoin before too long. And given that there is this deadline until 2026, they've got a lot of time.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. Tether FUDers out there, I'm sorry to say, I think you guys have called this one wrong.
You guys need to go back to talking about why the moon landing never happened. Sorry, it's like, guys, really. No, sorry, man.
And it's worth mentioning as well, just whilst we're on the subject of Tether, Tether, this multi-billion-dollar company, is throwing money around like crazy. $775 million investment. This was in Rumble.
It's pocket change to these guys. I mean, really, to be honest. But I think it's a very good investment. Strategically aligns. Also, Rumble is invested by David Sachs. David Sachs is, of course, crypto czar. I can see the connections here. So Tether is not loose of cash.
Don't panic, guys. Like Tether FUD is not something. There's plenty of other things to worry about in 2025, but Tether FUD I don't think is one of them. Okay, that is all the news items we wanted to talk about today. Let's move on.
Before we do, let's of course
let's remind people to
subscribe, of course.
Ring the bell,
and hit that like button.
Yes, very important.
Fire up those likes.
Very important. Give us some likes for the end of the year. Think of it as a late Christmas present.
Get 1,000 likes before the view ends. What are we going to do?
You could put some trousers on.
You can start OnlyFans. You guys let us know in the comments. What would you rather want? Me to wear trousers the whole rest of next year, or Guy to start a Coin Bureau OnlyFans? Okay, let us know.
You people don't know what
it's a democracy. It's democracy. They choose. I'm sure they would love the other.
Agostinho Borges Serra, I hope I've pronounced that right, says in the comments, I'm an EU crypto investor and I've changed to USDC months ago.
See, he's on top. He's been watching Coin Bureau videos since the beginning. His nose has been coming.
Yeah. I mean, forewarned is forearmed. So, I mean, I think this kind of underlines, Tether FUD is just that. Okay, so let's take a look at last week's top performing cryptos. Now, this comes with a caveat today, because quite a few, it's a bad week when some of the biggest performers are centralized exchange tokens. So we're not going to discuss the top performing centralized exchange tokens, because usually they're just burning them or whatever.
Policy. It's our newly instructed policy.
Yeah.
Company policy.
Exactly. And it doesn't even, I think it doesn't really even reflect trading volumes half the time, I think. So we'll talk about the top performers from last week that were not centralized exchange tokens. Starting, the clear winner is Virtual. This is Virtual's protocol, the AI agent launchpad, which has just been outperforming pretty much everything. Certainly of the higher market cap cryptos. It's now, is that right? Number 39.
What's crazy is also that about 2 months ago or so, inside the Coin Bureau Club Discord, which by the way will be linked to below, we one of our researchers, Kevin, had been calling this out long ago. I think it must have been 20x since he called it out. Quite a few people within the Discord there have been raising Kevin's calls there on a lot of these AI agents and AI infra plays. Yeah.
So obviously, for anyone approaching this AI agent narrative, kind of Virtuals is the sort of go-to because it is the big infra play. The token itself is doing well, partly because people are speculating like hell on AI agents, and this is kind of a perhaps an overall play rather than going for individual ones. But so speculation is playing a part, but also like in order to use Virtual's protocol, in order to create an AI agent, and I can tell you a lot of people are, you have to hold Virtual's, you have to hold virtual tokens. So I think it's kind of a combination of speculation and use that is driving this. So very exciting. Speaking of another kind of hot narrative
is Move. So obviously this is Movement Labs, which full disclosure we've invested in at Coin Bureau. Now the Move token, which recently launched about 3 weeks ago, absolutely been crushing it out of the gates. It's a Move-based Ethereum layer 2 rollup. I won't go into the technicalities of it, but they recently integrated WBTC, which of course provides more liquidity, and active addresses is also rising. So it's obviously seen as a good kind of like beta play on Sui and Aptos, because obviously it's on top of Ethereum as a layer 2, but it's also utilizing the same programming language, so it gives developer interoperability and utilizes Ethereum for base layer settlement. So yeah, it's just been crushing it, and they were ones that they got a TGE out of TGE Coinbase listing, which is very rare. So good on the team there.
So again, it seems to be there's just a lot of excitement around new coins at the moment. It's kind of the kind of new coin meta has surfaced, partly because maybe this is a reaction to the sort of Dino coin meta from a few weeks back. Now everyone's switching to the newest stuff that they can get their hands on. Speaking of which, another big gain, another one of the top gainers. I knew you'd like that segue.
Yeah, I like them. I saw them being lined up. I saw that coming down the runway. I was like, he's going to get this.
He's going to nail this, and then spoil it by calling it out. So Pengu, the Pudgy Penguins ecosystem token that got airdropped to, I mean, pretty much everyone, right? I think you'd have had to. You've had to work hard not to get the airdrop. So obviously, again, this is the kind of new project meta, but they also seem to be building a pretty strong community. Pengu itself has some top tier exchange listings. Binance, Bybit, OKX are all supporting it. I wonder whether some of the price appreciation that it's seen over the last week or so, I wonder if that's people obviously speculating maybe on the prospect of things like Coinbase listings, US centralized exchange listings.
I mean, I think it's potentially that, because I would see it's a strong candidate, right? Like it's very decentralized. It's associated with a well-known brand, and they've listed other coins. They've listed what? Pepe, Bonk, what else? Popcat, the list Popcat, I
think so, yeah.
So I don't see why they wouldn't list Pengu.
Yeah, so I wonder if some of the
buying
is
coming down. It'll come down the pipe somewhere.
Okay, what's up next?
Next up, CRV. Now, obviously, this is the. I think we've seen this did well recently. About 2-3 weeks ago, was one of the top gainers. And maybe people buying the dip because of the SCRV USD returns that have been generated within the protocol. But maybe it's just people buying the bounce back up, as it dipped.
Yeah, the founder got liquidated again. Yeah. I don't know if we've got the article. Oh, yeah, here we are. So, CRV, as Nick says, was one of the top gainers, I think, a couple of weeks ago. And this was because they launched this SCRV USD, which is a yield-bearing stablecoin.
He is a degen like a degen in form. He is the guy who he used his CRV, if I recall, about last year to go and buy a mansion in Sydney.
Oh yeah, the guy who's
the mansion in
yeah.
Sydney.
Okay, well, he's riding that wave, isn't he? He's had some ups, he's had some downs.
Credit to him. The guy's like, he's using his protocol and he's leveraging, like in true degen fashion, leveraging the hell out of his CRV positions to go and buy. Well, I mean, it's living a life.
Utter degenerate. Good for him. Good for him. Okay, so yeah, I think CRV took a dip and has now sort of bounced back up. So that might explain why it's one of the top gainers. And last but not least, among the top gainers, we have Radium. Now, this was a couple of weeks ago, I think this was announced, but Radium recently beat Uniswap in terms of monthly volume, monthly DEX volume. And I mean, I guess that's sort of still playing out. I kind of wonder as well whether Ray might be a sort of better reflection of the activity happening on Solana than Sol itself. Do you know what I mean? It's like, Sol hasn't seen much appreciation because of everything happening on the network, but Radium perhaps has, because so many people are using the DEX.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's done very well. It's the top DEX, right?
Yeah, and obviously benefiting from continued sort of meme coin degeneracy. Yeah. Okay, so that was last week's top gainers, excluding centralized exchange tokens. Let's have a look at some tweets of the week. Now, the first one is one that we did actually reference in last week's stream, but I think this was an important one. This got a lot of people talking. So this was Tevano. Tay is a white hat hacker.
I think she also works at MetaMask or worked at MyEtherWallet or something, I think. And she's a white hat hacker. And yeah, she brought this to the attention of the community that the DPRK, which is, of course, North Korea's infamous hacking group, had been trading on Hyperliquid. And of course, they don't trade, right? And she points out, DPRK doesn't trade DPRK tests, which of course is reference to pen testing, checking out, testing, where are their vulnerabilities, where are potential opportunities. Now, this obviously, the tweet itself is one thing, but I think it's the furor that erupted afterwards. Many people accused her of FUDing and called her names, all this kind of stuff. But it is a good point. I mean, and the fact that, Hyperliquid, and people talked about, on the one hand, it's only 2 or 3 multi-sigs for these 4 validators and all this kind of stuff. And could they be at risk? But I think the point here is that no matter what the white hat hacker is saying, right? I think if a white hat hacker is pointing out that the North Korean hacking group is testing or using your protocol, it's a cause for concern. So you'd want to engage. You irrespective, like they may do it in a different fashion than you may find acceptable, but it's a matter to jump on that, not to call it FUD, but to address it, right? No one's out here to necessarily FUD. Because it is true, it's all on chain, it's all verifiable. So lots of people came out to defend her as well. Yeah,
there were some pretty idiotic takes. I think that she had some sort of other motive. It's like, well, it's worth checking, isn't it? Yeah. I don't think this was fudding Hyperliquid for no good reason. We don't want Kim Jong-un and his lackeys to get away with another $1 billion hack. That would have been a disaster. Better safe than sorry. Yeah. Okay, let's have a look at the next tweet of the week. What is going on here? I'm seeing big numbers.
Big numbers. So the story behind this, now this is this Mira meme coin that was launched. So the backstory is this guy, he basically puts out a request. He says he's got his daughter has got a rare condition, a rare terminal condition of some description that needs research and funding and all this. And he puts out the request and a call for action from the community. And what does the degens within the community do? Well, they create a meme coin. Of course, though, there is a good happy ending here because they send most of the supply to the guy. It creates a lot of excitement. There's a narrative about Mira, and there's a lot of awareness for Mira, this meme coin. He had a bit of a trouble because he wanted to know, how am I going to convert this into some fiat so I could use it for the funding, which he did manage to do. Obviously, people traded the meme coin after that. There was some, fracas afterwards about did some influencers trade it before and dump on others or whatnot? But that doesn't change the fact that it was a good news story of meme coins, specifically a meme coin that was launched on Pump.fund. So that's a good news story. Someone's actually value created. Now, obviously, there's always going to be losers in the meme coin game, but at least in this case, it was going to a good cause for somebody, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good news story for meme coins. Yeah. Compared to all the others we've seen throughout the year.
Who would have thought crowdfunding crypto is coming for crowdfunding in the form of meme
In
coins.
the forms of meme coins launched on an aggregator, meme coin generator.
That whole sector is about to be being disrupted. Yeah. Okay, right. Next tweet of the week is.
That is so true, man.
Yeah,
that is so true.
I picked that out. I remember picking that out. I think it's that sort of thing. It's like, you study and study, and it kind of jades you as well, because I think sometimes you study something so in depth, you'll dig into everything, and you'll consider it very, very carefully, and you put some, you put
the
something
tokenomics, when are the unlocks come in? What is the consensus mechanism? How does this compare? What is the TPS? I need to study this. I need to put my due diligence sheet and all that. Meanwhile, the guy next door is basically just aped all onto some sort of a pump launch or something.
Meanwhile, the 11-year-old next door is
like, I just bought Popcat at January. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's. I think it kind of, as well as being quite a funny meme, I think it sort of reflects a genuine frustration, perhaps. Yeah. Okay, next tweet of last week is this one. Oh
no, God, this is hilarious.
Okay.
Well, no, it's actually sad. I mean, so, and guys don't know the context. There's a new Squid Game out, Squid Game 2, right? Now, apparently, one of the characters in the Squid Games is a crypto influencer, right? Mm-hmm. And he basically, when he wakes up, he's complaining that he doesn't have his phone, he can't check the market, all this kind of stuff. And he says, I've got money invested. And then this guy says, player 333, you basically are, you're age 30, former owner of the YouTube channel, MG-Coin. So they're taking a shot at a crypto YouTubers here, right? But not only that, they promoted Dalmatian, a new cryptocurrency, leading his subscribers to lose 15.2 billion yuan. So basically, and he shut down his channel and disappeared. So basically, on Squid Games, a very popular channel all around the world, now they're going out there and taking shots at crypto YouTubers. So basically now...
we're so back.
We're so back. Crypto scammer who's a YouTuber. Now, why couldn't I just go like a Twitter influencer? Why does he have to be a YouTuber? Like, specifically? Like, come on. I mean, we try our best, man. We try our best, and we now getting literally.
I think it's factually inaccurate, because from what little I know of the South Korean crypto market, and actually one of our great researchers is based in South Korea. From what I know of South Korean crypto, they don't tend to use YouTube that much.
They don't. I think it's used in the apps. Telegram is very popular, and then also obviously the apps there, like Line. I think Line,
Kakao Talk.
Kakao Talk,
So it's factually inaccurate. So do your research, Netflix. Zara, you were watching. You've been watching some of Squid Game 2. Does that get a thumbs up or a thumbs down? Thumbs up. Oh no, 2 thumbs. She's so. Zara, our producer, is so on it. Okay, right. Another tweet of the week. Is this the final tweet of the week, or we've got 2 more? Oh yes, this is from Rob, our good friend Rob over at Digital Asset News. Now this is the final tweet in a thread about security, crypto security. This is something that you need to be taking seriously, folks. My bet is that most of you probably aren't taking it seriously enough. Yeah. So what Rob was talking about at the beginning of this thread was the fact that those 2-factor authentication codes that you use with, usually with Google 2FA, there is you've got to make sure they're not being backed up to the cloud. There's a little cloud icon.
I think that's true. And then sometimes also when you're setting up 2-factor authentication, especially with authenticator apps on exchanges, they give you the option to save a, not backdoor, but it's like a seed. It's like a collection of words, or like a phrase or something that you can then save, a collection of numbers and letters. And this is basically allows you to bypass it if you ever lose access to your 2FA. And people save this in the cloud. Never, ever save anything like that, especially like same thing with seed words on the cloud.
Yeah.
And he's mentioned Yubico there, which is a good point, because all of our, especially like our YouTubes and all that kind of stuff, it's secured through a Yubico. Same thing, you can use Yubico on exchanges. Yubico, it's a physical device that only people who have access to this Yubico and click on it can log into it. That's the most secure, I think, form of 2FA. And you can have multiple levels as well.
Yeah. So take your crypto security seriously, folks. Don't be that person that gets scammed, because as the bull market gathers steam, we're just going to see more and more of these hacks and scams. So protect yourselves at all costs. Okay, that is it for tweets of the week. Any coins to watch next week?
Only two, not massive to be honest. There's two unlocks, or one unlock this XRP firstly, but this is the regular monthly 1 billion XRP unlock. That's by 1.8% of the circulating supply of Ripple, so it shows you how much circulating supply there is. But yeah, I mean, I don't expect it to. It comes monthly, so it's known. I don't expect it to impact that much. Obviously, all increases in supply should technically lead to a fall in price, but I don't think it's going to have that much of an impact. It's relatively small. That compared to the SUI one, which is another unlock. These are both on the 1st of January, by the way, which is also part of the regular monthly unlocks at 2.19% of the circulating supply. So it's not massive, and we've had these regularly, as I say, monthly. But it's something we're still putting in your calendar to note.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, yeah, we're sort of in that quite quiet period as the year winds down. I think it's going to start getting crazy in January again. A lot of people losing their minds in the comments because BTC has dipped to 92.5K. Chill, people, please, just chill, okay? I know.
Wusa, man.
Well,
you know Wusa?
No.
I know. What's that? It's basically in the Bad Boys. You never watched Bad Boys?
Yeah, but years ago.
Okay. Yeah. So it's basically like Martin Lawrence when he gets really angry, and he basically, the Wusa. You basically go in like this, like Wusa, and you just calm yourself down.
Right.
Go watch it. You guys will see the reference. You guys will know it. Just go and watch Bad Boys. It was a classic, man.
I do remember Bad Boys, but I don't remember Wusa. Well, Wusa.
Chill out.
Yeah, chill out, guys. Come on. All right. So just before we end the stream, I'm just going to go through a few of your comments that I saved along the way. Sun God, UAE bought secretly for a few weeks, and now it has already been announced 400k BTC. No. I haven't heard anything about this.
I saw some news about it. I don't know if it's been confirmed. I saw it was rumors.
I saw that there was an AI generated article that turned out to be false.
Rumors.
I mean, let's not rule it out, but yeah, you never quite know what they're up to. But yeah, I'm not sure. I need more evidence of that first. Ronnie says, I tend to forget Nick is not Australian. Something very Australian about the look of the man.
Oh my God.
All right. I'm expecting to hear that's not a crypto knife.
Crikey,
this is a crypto knife. He does look quite Australian, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Okay. Pickle Rick Sanchez, next big run up will be the week of January the 20th, which is, of course, Trump's inauguration.
Yeah.
Let's see. Might be on something there.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Captain Kangaroo. Now, this is what I like to see. Captain Kangaroo. I got it in at 107k. It'll go back that way. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Coin Bureau Trading. I know these guys. Nick's trousers hit all-time high at 50k subs. There we are.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Someone an interesting question. Is the internet better in Dubai, Guy? Yeah, it's much better. It tastes nicer. It's got a much better, it's much sweeter taste. Yes, it is. It is better. Yeah. Okay. You should do. All right. A suggestion here. You should do a list of fame. A list of fame rather than, okay, well, maybe we could do that.
Top watchers. But we want the goal of the list of the wall of shame is to encourage them to tell their countrymen to watch.
Yeah.
That's it. Right?
Exactly. Exactly. It's the stick rather than the carrot.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't go in for carrots here, folks. Typo of the day, I think at least, goes to Mr. Buddy Pest. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. I can't bring the other comment up now. Pengu airdrop was solid. Yeah.
Well, that was a solid one. Yeah.
That went well. That sort of restored my faith in airdrops a little bit. And we'll leave the last word to Agostino Serra. We need to see Guy bench press BTC price in pounds on January the 1st. Nick can spot him.
I'm pretty certain, Guy, you'll be able to bench press Bitcoin in pounds. Man.
What, 100,000?
No. Oh, sorry. I saw 100K. I'm thinking 100 pounds. Yeah, 100,000.
Okay. Yeah, we take it down to pounds.
We take it down to K, like we'd make it in Ks. Yeah, you could handle that, right?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
100 pounds bench press.
What is that? Okay, let's take it to 100 pounds. What is 100 pounds in kilos?
I think it's a bit more than 50.
Oh, I could do that. Yeah. I could do that. 50 kilos. I mean, I couldn't do it for long.
Yeah.
I could do it once.
45 kgs.
Okay. With Nick spotting me, what could possibly go wrong? Okay. That's all for today's stream, folks. Thank you very much for watching. We should take this opportunity to wish you all
a very happy crypto US oh shit.
Yeah, a very happy, a very prosperous, a very successful, a very bullish 2025
to 150k and beyond.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next year.
Adios, Magni.
So the moon could stop for